hey Lactoid Scott, Corey, my good friend Bam,
Yo.
and Grid. Happy to have you. But yeah, just the idea of game mechanics having these different outcomes, right? And like you can, it's interesting. Like there's, I think it's interesting what people will do for like status, right? Now this is a little different from what we're just talking about, but just like the things that'll drive a person to like for like to do antisocial behaviors to gain more status, right? Like even in like extremely low stakes environments, it's something I've always found like super interesting.
Can you give an example? What do you mean?
Yeah, sure. Okay. I brought this up before on stream like a long time ago. But I what got me thinking about this is actually a Star Wars novel. And it was basically Luke Skywalker explaining why Jedi's like have the right to just like lop limbs off, whatever, because the Force, and someone was responding to him and saying, "Well, that doesn't quite make sense, right?" And part of that conversation was talking about how when individuals don't scale their efforts to the rewards, right? And so like you could see this in like in a department store, right? Or like like fucking CVS, right? Like, hey, I want to be not the manager, right, but the assistant to the manager, and there's someone who might be a favorite, and so I'm going to try to sabotage them, right, just to like be the favorite of the manager, right? Not even an official title. I just want to be the assistant to the manager, and this is the way to do it, right? And you can see like vitriolic behavior and like the most for like the least of things, right? Like Doobie.
So
I wish Doobie was
reputation management, right? Is what we're talking about.
When Doobie gets here, which hopefully be soon, Doobie actually knows a lot about this. Because
about how women operate in the workforce. Got it.
Yes. Politics. So like you'll see that in the Politics Discord server, where like people will do like incredibly vicious things, like just to like become a mod, right? Or just to be Doobie's friend because Doobie's like the head of it, right? And people just want to be near him, have status in the community. It's crazy.
I do kind of. I'm just thinking about like other streamers too, right? Like that have like a large hold on the culture, and how you kind of see that in like orbiters, right? Like you see, like when you look at like Destiny orbiters or Hassan orbiters, or weirdly enough, like I'm trying to think of a right wing example, but I can't think of a right wing example where they have like a lot of orbiters. Andrew, I guess Andrew Wilson,
Trump orbiter.
Well, yeah. Now we're in a different space when we're talking about that, right? Like the cult of MAGA isn't the same thing as the.
You have like the whatever podcast and the Fresh and Fit guys, same people who would like circulate on those. No.
Yeah.
You were
really?
Fucking
yeah,
for you, man.
Oh.
Hell yeah.
Telling them whores to stop being stupid and shit.
Hell yeah.
You get
hell yeah, dude.
What a lot.
But yeah, you do. Hell yeah, dude. DM me when you're on so I can watch that one, because I'm not watching an 8-hour podcast regularly.
$10 super chat from Grassroots Hegemon saying, the old drop at 10K stack in the wilderness and RuneScape strategy. I see you, Fabian.
Listen. We don't talk about elders. We don't talk about what happened with Ultima Online. We don't talk about Star Wars Galaxies. We don't talk about RuneScape, and we don't talk about EverQuest 1. Okay, those were the old days, and we were toxic, and we were an asshole. All right. Though the old days of the MMOs, we don't talk about that shit.
Did you ever do?
We certainly don't talk about Dark Ages.
Mic check for you guys.
Things like that.
Can you guys hear me now?
Armor trimming scam?
Mic check.
I'm trying to think. I never played old school RuneScape, so I played RuneScape like as a little kid. So
Yeah, yeah,
I did a
totally.
lot. I did a lot of shit, but it's been 20 plus years.
I was about to say, did you have a girlfriend on RuneScape that was probably a man?
No, I never had any of that.
Oh.
I probably did at one point. The person kept calling me sweaty as opposed to sweetie. I was 11.
Well,
I
Were you
mean,
actually
that's
sweaty back then?
It's kind of legit though.
I wasn't. No.
I used to love
Sweaty,
RuneScape.
sweaty's kind of a fucking compliment these days, though. Like like the sweats or sweaty gamers, like the people that go like extra
They try
hardcore.
hard. Yeah.
The try, it's like it's try hard, but it's like,
hard.
but like people don't use it like try hard, right? Like when people say like, oh, this person's sweat or they're sweaties, it's like sometimes it's seen as a compliment, as almost as much as it's seen as an insult. Like, oh, this is what the sweats do. You
My
don't have to do
girlfriend was
that.
ahead of her time.
I
It was
think
clearly, it was clearly a
So deep
misspelling.
down,
Yeah, I was about to say,
Deep down,
honestly,
she was-
RuneScape was like a different level. Like to me, I felt like it taught children the like what hard work looks like, because I remember fishing for lobsters like 6 days trying to get to swordfish.
Mhm.
Like it's a dedication. It is not a quick process.
It taught me how to
Like-
type.
Wood cutting. Oh,
I can see
God.
that.
So much.
Yeah,
more.
much
the,
better.
old, the old ones are far
can't
more
really mute them
polished when it comes
down.
to grinding.
I can still hear them, which is
You really only
I
see that in
think
like
you
Korean
bastards.
MMOs now.
Yeah. But
good to see you guys
so
out there.
I was not into
really cool.
those type of games, so I missed
You
that
never got
one.
into RuneScape? Oh my God. It was.
So,
No, I've seen other people. I only
guys,
when I
hope
started.
everybody's
Twitch,
having a good
I
night.
actually made a
It's a good
few
debate
friends
tonight.
who were
The
into
subject matter
RuneScape,
is
and
awesome.
I was like,
I'm really
just
into it.
watching them like stream
I
the
just
game
want to
in
hear what
Discord,
everybody's
right?
openings are.
And I'm like,
So we'll see
holy
where it
shit,
goes.
this is so fucking
And
cool.
It really was.
as always,
It's-
it's really hard for me
like,
to
people
grift
talk about
in these
RuneScape like it
debates.
was
So
this,
if you
like-
guys, remember,
There are some
send
games
us
I
some-
think, right, that are
send
like
us some cash, send us some
the-
money.
the popularity
we
of
will,
it really
like
is
Sword Art Online.
mostly
We'll get some
nostalgia,
stuff done tonight. It's gonna be fun.
right?
It's gonna be a good.
And then there are games that are like really really good, and the nostalgia is there as well.
Also,
and I
absolutely,
think
shout out to
RuneScape-
my pal
RuneScape is
Natalia,
a good game.
longtime
Fuck, is
supporter
it
of the show,
dated?
been
Like,
around
It's not.
since
I
before
don't
I
like.
even
I think people that are
started the
still
show.
into old school RuneScape,
She's awesome,
like hardcore.
And
I just
really
don't get it.
appreciate the gift.
Yeah, I don't understand people still into it, but I think for the
appreciate all
time,
of
like
the
a game you
support,
can get on
Natalia,
for free online,
and
and then like
good to
had this
see you
entire
out there in
open
chat.
world
I
concept.
know that you'll wander
and
off
your
soon, but
character, like yes, there was missions,
this
but
should
there
be
was
a pretty
no
good
obligation to
debate
do any of these things.
if we
Like,
get
you can
to it.
literally just go do
So
whatever
we
you
don't
want.
spend all night just
and
rambling. And
honestly, leveling up, like I said, it wasn't something that was just handed to you. Getting from level 16 to level 60 was like a multi-month investment. I don't know. I think it was like, if for the time, it was pretty impactful.
Bro, who's
I
this
mean, I
mentally
agree
ill
it's
person?
impactful.
Hold on.
It's just like,
You have to be more specific, Scott.
You had to be there. You weren't there.
Which
I
specific
wasn't
mentally ill person?
It's all of us.
Probably.
but I mean,
Right, so
I don't want to.
the deal is, guys,
memory. I'm sure you
these
guys have like,
dudes,
like great like.
this is the way this
memories,
show works,
in
right?
RuneScape. That just
he
I just-
opens the
that-
show
I
up,
want-
and then
I
we have
missed
like
that.
this preamble topic, which last
yeah,
week it
I
got
feel
out of
you.
control, and we never
I'm not gonna
actually
talk
made
about
it to
RuneScape all night.
the
Don't
main
worry.
topic.
I'm good.
Oh,
And then
no,
the,
no, it's
drag
fine,
us back
it's
in.
fine.
It was.
I played a lot,
waiting
I
on
played a lot
Doobie
more
to get here, I
EQ1 and
think,
World of Warcraft than I
and
ever
maybe
did
one other
RuneScape.
person. I can't remember who the
So
next
You guys
person.
ever heard of Super
Wait a second.
Mario? That was a good one.
Yes, that was
Nerd.
Super Mario 3, the best Mario.
All right, so
Mario 64, big Mario.
No,
64.
Super Mario 3
True.
is much better.
yeah, got
Bro,
him.
fuck
And then
Nintendo.
SSX Tricky,
Then and now.
and then after Grand Theft
Yeah.
Auto came out, it was over for other games. Like why?
Yeah,
play
we're
other games?
waiting on one guy to get
Grand Theft
here.
Auto is
It's the frog.
God.
You know it is.
Listen, it's
So-
Grand Theft Auto. It's Fast and the Furious.
When
When
you,
you had to pick up your standards for things.
You know, whatever.
okay. Awful. But I did.
I do like
so,
the topic, though. I
we're
can't wait
waiting
to
on,
get
Dude
into
to
it.
get here,
And, it's gonna be
so,
awesome tonight.
Hopefully, it'll be here
It
soon.
was
Hey,
really
it's so
cool
easy
being
to
on
come
whatever
in so
last
we can
night. I got to
chat
be
about
honest
the-
with you guys.
Grand
The
Theft Auto is problematic.
And the
it's
SRPs,
even more
and I
insane when you're in the
will,
What a
studio.
reference.
So
I will maintain.
it's pretty
was,
cool.
Like,
I
amazing. I had a
think
good
I'm going to
time.
go back
Any
out
of
in a
the
few
things you had to
weeks
say,
or something like that.
Shout out to me,
Brian's trying to
SRPs,
set up
man.
a show.
Fuck everybody.
or
who's
Brian
on her
wants to
dick,
set up a
the
show
entire
where
goddamn
it's
time
there's
over
some-
fucking nothing,
a
over
couple
because she made fun
OS
of their
and
hobby.
maybe somebody, there's
that was pretty
better,
fucked up. But Now another thing I want to
people
talk
to
about.
engage
Right?
with me because the girls last night weren't really engaging at all with me.
So I want.
Of course, it was late,
I'm
but
curious
that's
about, right?
okay.
And again,
We'll,
we will
anyway,
have the
it's
large.
going to be
we're gonna talk
legit.
about
It's going to be
Cassius
awesome.
Fail.
So
Everyone
you guys
if you're just,
stand by,
watching us
enjoy the
now,
debate tonight, and we'll have a good time.
But before we get to that, I had a question.
What's up,
And this
Wicked
is
Wally?
to my conservative / libertarian friends. It's something that's been on my mind a lot, which is private equity. So private equity, is a growing
The best kind of
sector
equity.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
It's the only kind of actual equity. There's no
It's the
national
only kind of
equity.
actual equity. Okay.
I'm not a
great.
fan of the other types of equity, but
No,
private
No,
equity, I like that
only
one.
the private kinds. Okay, great. Thank you.
That's a good one.
He's not wrong. But I think I know what you mean when you say private equity, right? Like you mean it the
Yeah.
way a left-wing person means it.
BlackRock.
So let me just clear this up. He doesn't mean private equity. That's just a magic word that the left uses, right? Like what he actually means is like hedge funds and companies that go in and like do hostile takeovers and destroy them. Like that's what you're talking about, right? You're not just
So,
talking about
to be-
the ownership of like and stocks and as an existence of like investment.
Yes, but I'm not using it as a left wing. I'm using it as how like it's used within the general political
No, you're saying a left
zeitgeist,
this
right?
time.
Private.
No, that might
okay.
be. Hold on. I think that might be a little bit of an echo chamber thing for you for a second. Like normally you're not that bad, but I think that, and it's no offense to you, but like the right doesn't use private equity that way. They use it economically what it means.
Well, no. Sorry. Like there is an index, right? Like a global trade index, like it's called, I forget, GTPE or something like that. But like, no, not GDP, GT like P or something. It's like the global or maybe GPEL, some like global private equity listing or something like that, right? But like there's like an actual economic index of private equity. It's like called private equity within the literature, right? Within articles, within all over the place. Now I can say that it is a boogeyman to the left,
Right.
certainly, right? And so that's correct. But like plenty of people use it in the way I'm using it. But to be clear, right, I can be more specific, so we'll make sure we're all on the same page, right? I'm talking about private equity. I'm talking about an investment strategy, right?
Yeah, I just mean like Jimmy Dean's sausage is private equity, right? It's not publicly traded. They're a private equity firm that is like a family owned, right? Like you're not talking about Jimmy Dean. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. So I'm just again to be on the same page. I'm talking about an investment strategy of like a private equity acquisitions.
So
and which
yeah,
right, yeah. So we're talking about a company raising private capital and also like going to banks to get a leverage buyout of some sort of business, right? Like it could be any business really, but usually smaller businesses. And so they buy out these businesses, usually with a lot of leverage, a lot of debt. And then the goal, the stated goal is that like we're going to run this business better. We're going to make operational improvements, right? And we are going to sell this for a higher value later on.
Sure.
And then we'll have a return.
Yeah, so, I do that, and my wife does that. You know, like my wife currently works for a company that makes educational products for schools and colleges and that sort of thing. And they are acquiring smaller companies almost monthly. They will buy these companies up to get their technology, to get a distribution system, to get something. An access to a database, whatever that company has that makes them unique, they will buy that company and add it to their profile. And then when they get the company, that's called a roll-up. And when a company gets big enough, they're going to sell that company. And part of my, in the example of my wife, part of her salary, if you will, part of her earnings is she had when she joined the company, rather than pay her, really what she's worth, they gave her equity in the company. So when the company sells, her equity right now is worth maybe $100,000, maybe $150,000. When they sell that company, it'll be worth $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is. So I don't have a problem at all with any of this. You guys are
sure.
You're
Well, I don't know if what your wife is doing exactly what I'm talking about. It might be, right. I don't, because I just don't know.
It sounds exactly like what you're talking about.
And I don't know the details of this company, right? So what I'm specifically talking about are like big institutional investors, right? I imagine something similar happens on a smaller scale. I don't know if they're as leveraged as big institutional investors, right? I don't know if your wife's company has access to as much capital as these others do. Because if not, then it's like I'm
okay.
saying,
So what? Let me understand really quickly. What is the?
We've had like 5 disagreements.
Bam, we got like a lot of noise coming from you. Sorry, go ahead.
Emma?
You might be using the wrong mic.
Voice
You
of
were using a different mic
God.
before.
Are you being bombed, Blackwood?
What happened?
No, his
Deus
voice
Ex
sounds like it's coming from
Machina,
everywhere.
Bad audio,
Yeah.
like it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You had
it was-
a different sound before. You were fine previously.
Hello?
And now
Am I bad now?
you're
echoey.
You check your audio settings here.
Big deep.
Make sure you're using the right mic. So hit the gear icon or whatever on your end. But we can understand you. If you wanted to make an interjection, you can just make a.
It's going to be a loud interjection.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, no, I was trying to. If I sound weird, I don't want to keep talking.
Too low.
Now it went the other way.
and now you're extremely
Testing,
low.
testing.
Put the volume up. Yeah. Say it again. Test.
Testing.
Say it again. Yeah,
Yeah, you're better now. You're good now.
Yeah.
So Brian, what's what issue are you taking with leverage in and of itself?
I'm going to tell you guys, right? I'm still trying to work.
Yeah,
my
I feel
way
like he
up.
ain't got it out. That was like there's been 5 disagreements, and I feel like Prime hasn't even stated what he wanted to say yet. That's what I was confused about. I was like, what are we disagreeing yet?
Yeah. Like right now, I'm just like describing the situation, right? Like making sure we're on the same page. But I haven't really.
We haven't gotten past private equity yet.
Yeah.
No, we did. Just go.
But yeah. Okay. Right. So basically what I wanted to ask, right, is from a conservative and a libertarian perspective, right? Like what are your thoughts on this particular like investment strategy, right? Like and its outcomes and like not just like simply economic with in terms of hey, does someone actually make a profit at the end of it, right? That's one thing, right? But also like its effect on businesses, its effects on communities. Like I got a lot of questions about like, is this a strategy that we should be encouraging, right? And I don't want to do this not from a like a leftist perspective, right? I'm not doing this from an anti-capitalist perspective. Like that's like something else. So I'm gonna do this like from a like internal critique. That capital is good and wonderful, right? But just like talking, but focusing more on like of the options that we have available, right, to for mergers, acquisitions.
What options exactly? Because I feel like we're going to have to define some things pretty clearly.
Before we do that, right? Before we do that, we will go down. Bam, you have something you want to say?
Yeah, well, I know the question is for them, but I was saying just for clarity's sake, can you ground what you're saying in an example? And you don't have to use real companies. You can say when company A does $100 million, whatever. Can you ground it in an example just so we know what we're talking about? Thanks.
I will do exactly that.
I appreciate
exactly that. No, and I'm glad you brought it up because that's where I was.
Wait, Prime, real quick. Just if you could adjust the tone of the way that you're speaking, because it's getting really hard to understand. Like maybe turn up your mic, whatever it may be, but just like continue.
No,
I'm just messing. Yeah, I can. Okay, all right. No, I will definitely give you an example. I'm glad you brought that up. All right, so we're going to play the land of make-believe, right? We're going to make a hypothetical. We're going to run with this hypothetical. All right. So let's say
this is definitely going to be a real example.
I think it's grounded in reality, but you'll have to decide. All right. So, my good friend Lactoid, the consummate capitalist.
Damn, that's a big ass thing of water.
It's so big. It distracts me every time he does it. Every time I watch.
Because he's so sweaty.
See, this is American abundance. Okay, this is what capitalism gets you. I can drink all the water I want.
Actually,
It's like
no. Canada has
it's
way
like
more water than the United States.
It's like a small waste bucket.
Snow doesn't
He puts it
count.
to his
Shut up.
face.
I got
Yeah, way
cheap ass water. I don't live in fucking California.
Okay. So my my good friend Lactoid, right, being the consummate capitalist that he is, decides to start a business, right? And he like thinks and thinks. He's like, what could I make money off of? What do I know? And he goes, Eureka, obviously, right? I'm going to start a dildo company, right? So Lactoid, creates Lactoid Dildo Incorporated.
I do know what women like. It's a good point.
Indeed he does, right?
It's dildos for gay men.
No, they don't sell specifically gay men dildos.
Yes, they do. It
Right?
says
Actually, no.
It says
Yes,
gay
they
guy
do.
dildos.
What's okay?
It says
Do I gotta
gay
find a
guy
company real quick? All right, we'll
dildos.
find one for you.
This is your company. How
Are
do you not
buttholes like are male? Okay, whatever.
Worst business owner on earth.
I don't know much about that.
Realdick.com. Gay realistic dildos. Extreme restraints. Dildos and butt plugs.
Dildos made by
for
gay men for gay men.
Boys
Black
shop.
How are you going to wear
Boys
FUBU
shop.
and not know what FUBU means?
What's the category?
Boysshop.com.
Are we
Fucking
just saying
machines.
gay words?
Huge
I don't-
dildos. Anal toys.
Dong
Look,
words.
Shop
I
the
only-
best gay male sex toys.
I only
including
have-
fucking machines and fleshlights,
Okay.
butt plugs, prostate vibrators,
you're-
condoms,
All right.
huge anal stretching toys.
Your algorithm's
A lot of people are about to
I
get some
thought you were trying to
weird
appeal to the
Instagram
right.
ads after watching this fucking video. Enjoy those IG ads, boys.
I only have the mental bandwidth to understand one minority community at a time. Right now, it's black people. I
appreciate this.
I know it's black people. It's very limited. He's trying. He's trying. It's a lot to grasp. It's a lot to grasp.
Doing a number on your brain.
And we appreciate
A lot
my
to
brother,
grasp.
always
Sounds like
part
a
of the struggle,
great
okay.
Gay dildo company.
But,
You'll need more than two hands.
All right, so Lactoid has the dick company. Let's go. Let's do the next part.
the dildo company. Excuse me. Right, Lactoid has the
apparently
dildo
the gay dildo company, according to
It can be. I think like Lactoid. You don't
Scott,
discriminate as you.
Lactoid.
I would know where the money is.
He wouldn't.
Yeah.
He wouldn't
It's
go
a
to
small
such a
market.
niche
He knows where
market,
the
right? He
market
would do
is.
both.
Yeah, he'd be a cosmic capitalist.
I would do
right?
both,
He
yeah.
would,
I would,
open
yeah.
it up to open up all orbits.
True.
So
Gender neutral dildos.
Lactoid, he he lives in Virginia, right? So he starts a factory within his community, right? Like he employs the community members all around to create his dildos. And he's successful because of course he is, right? Lactoid is like finding new and impressive ways to titillate holes, right? And so Lactoid
them
goes
himself.
big, right? Dildo company, right? And he's very successful, extremely successful. And then later on in his life, right, he's like, bitch has made so much money, right? Like butt plug king, he would say, right? Like he's just made so much, but he wants to sell, okay? Lactoid wants to sell, and private equity comes, right? A private equity investment firm, large investment firm, comes and buys him up. And so when this happens, right, and the things I'm going to say are reflective of what's happened in real life, right? When this happens, like they're like, okay, well, we paid X amount of money, right? Well, when we raised X amount of capital, and then X times 5 in leverage, right? In debt. So debt financing by some other banks, right? We paid that much, and so we got to make our money back, right? The way it's done is that one, we get like the target company will take out the loans, right? And then they'll be the ones in debt. And then we try to get operational efficiencies. But you see, our friend Lactwood was already extremely efficient, right? Being the incredible capitalist,
The
that
dildo
he is,
daddy.
right? Yeah. And so this group, like all they can think of, and usually what they do is like, well, we're going to cut costs. We're going to cut labor costs, right? We maybe use less durable and cheaper materials, right, in the dildos, right, to cause irritations that previously didn't happen. And while we can boost on paper, right, revenue, we can boost on paper revenue, and maybe we raise prices of the products, and
well, you can't boost you can't boost revenue on paper.
Boast is what I think he meant, right? No.
He means boost, but
did he?
Boost revenue, raise revenue.
Yeah, you can't do it on paper. That's fraud.
That's why I thought he meant boast. Like on paper, you can be like,
no,
okay,
hold on. I know what he means. Hold
I
on,
mean,
let me
you
interrupt.
could.
Let
It's
me
called
clarify.
fraud.
Stop. Because so that Prime can get through this. What he means is by cutting the costs of production, right? You will have more profit, not per se more revenue, assuming prices are the same. And when he means on paper, what he means is it's high time preference thinking, because as he said, maybe they cause irritation, maybe the quality of the product has gone down. So in the immediacy, you're getting more profit, or by raising prices, you're getting more revenue, but you lose competition in the long term because your quality of your product suffers, etc. So on paper, it's like revenue's gone up, profit's gone up, everything's great.
Well, only the American government can get away with that.
So maybe instead what I should have said, like,
a private company can't get away with that because it'll come out in due diligence. When you go to buy a company, one of the first things you're going to look at is what they've done in the last 2 years and what their revenue versus production costs are. And when it doesn't align, any smart company buying it with half a fucking brain is going to walk away instantly. The only people that can get away with it is the federal government because they subsidize it.
Okay, sure. People buy junk assets all the goddamn time. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, people buy junk assets all the time.
We make mistakes, but what you're talking about is very easily detected. I mean, I look at companies all the time, and I would find that instantly. Like, they'd be like,
I didn't say that it wasn't easily detected. I didn't say that you couldn't find these things. I'm saying a separate statement, the statement that I actually said, right, is that people buy junk assets all the time, right? It's the only thing I'm saying. But in any case, right? So I'm not trying to belabor this point. The point is that the incentives change, right? So Lactoid had a connection to his community. Right. And Lactoid, right, like he understood like the things that give value to his customers, give value, and like how to run his business in a certain way.
Girth and elasticity.
Maximize productivity. Exactly. Right. But for the private equity, their goals are different. Their incentives are different. Their incentives are just to like say that this company is more valuable, and then so like when it's time to offload this asset, right? The numbers back it up, even if the company is doing less in terms of customer satisfaction, in terms of long-term health, in terms of growth, right? If these things are doing worse, it's fine as long as we can get it off our books. And so basically, now I'm going to wrap it up, right? What I want to ask all of you is like, isn't this a set of perverse incentives for capital, right? Like the only reason they can buy these Lactoid's company, right, is because there's a bunch of debt, right? They do it through debt financing, and they get Lactoid's company to buy to make the loan. So
Chuck, in Tennessee, that's exactly
profitable, but now it's underwater because now it has to service all these loans that the new owners are forced it to buy. Right?
Well, let me give you a real world example of that very thing.
Don't let me please.
I mean, if you want the answer to the fucking question, I'll answer the fucking question.
Hold on. I want to say the question. I'm going to say it, and
fine.
then I would love to hear what you have to say. I would really, I want to hear what all you have to say. Anyway,
no, you don't. You don't want an answer, Prime. You're just sitting there preaching. I will give you the fucking answer. I can give you a real world example.
Motherfucker, I want to say the question, and then I want the answer. Right? So listen.
You've asked the question.
No, I haven't.
All right.
No, I haven't. I spent the entire time describing it. I spent a long time doing it, but I spent a lot of time describing it. Okay, great. So, So basically, these incentives, right? I think they give perverse outcomes, right? Like loading up a company with debt, and then making that company have to service that debt, and you basically making your money, right? The new owners on the front end, right? So even if the deal goes bad, right? You've actually already made your money back, your investment back. But the company, right? The target company, is now a saddle of debt. Hopefully, they can finance that, right? That these individuals,
No, we're
they
not
don't
actually
actually care about the
fraud.
product.
He doesn't
right?
understand that it's fraud. He
Anything
thinks
else,
this
right?
is how business
Now we're
is
talking
done.
about lactose
How
amazing
fucking cool this
dildos,
is.
but it could be plumbing, it could be dentistry, it could be whatever it is. These people don't actually care about and don't know necessarily anything about the product. It's just widgets, and we've got to increase profits, increase revenue somehow.
We are belaboring the point now.
And it's a dumb point.
I will hold on. I'll do it if I want to. Thank you.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. In any case, what I want to know is when we were talking about these incentives, is like, should we be looking at is it worth it? Right? Is this a good thing to our economy? Is it making our economy worse? And I have other examples for that too, but I'll leave it there.
Yeah, so most of what you described is called fraud, and you don't front load in as a buyer. You can't front load in profit. No bank will allow that to happen. I deal with companies. I literally buy companies, and that's not how any of that shit works. Now, I will tell you, I'll give you a real example of something similar to what you're talking about that actually is how this shit goes down. So there is a company called Topgolf. You may have heard of them. It's you go there, you have a party, you can play simulated golf, and they have a driving range, all this kind of shit. They spent billions of dollars building this company. As a matter of fact, Callaway was so excited about this company that Callaway bought them, and it actually became Callaway Topgolf. And the problem is that during all of their construction, they went about $1 billion, $2 billion in debt. I mean, millions and millions of dollars per facility, and they really weren't. And now back in the COVID times and coming out of COVID, and people just had a little bit of extra money and a lot of extra time on their hands. Topgolf was banging. It was full all the time. But once that kind of went away, it slowed down. Callaway has now split. Topgolf is Topgolf. Callaway is Callaway again. Callaway walked away with effectively no debt. Topgolf has all of the debt, but it's been split off into another company, and it will now either live or die on its own, and Callaway will not be affected. Now, it's a little bit of shifty financing there to make that happen, but I don't think it's not really exactly what you're talking about. But Topgolf will either live or die based on whether or not the public wants that company to exist. The other thing is that Topgolf was too easily duplicated after 3 or 4 years, and technology caught up with it. And so more than likely what's going to end up happening is it'll end up being sold off broken up and sold off into smaller bits by the whatever conglomerate owns it now. I'm not really sure who owns it, but most likely it's going to be a break-even sort of deal. I don't know that they'll actually lose money, except in the individual facilities. But overall, I think they'll probably come close to breaking even. And that's kind of what you're talking about, where they're going to do they did it kind of a leverage buyout, and they moved all the debt to Topgolf, which is where it kind of belonged anyway, because the Callaway was profitable. They bought Topgolf, and then Topgolf was dragging them down. They got rid of the albatross around their neck. I don't know that that's exactly what you're talking about, but that's kind of how this works. Is that nobody goes into a company and buys a bad company. Like nobody does.
I didn't say that. That's literally not what I said.
And
I don't know why you bring
load in profit. You just
I didn't. Hold on. I said specifically.
He said about a good company.
Yeah, like Lactoid runs an excellent dildo company, right? And I won't have you slandering his name. So of course it's a great company. It's a fantastic company. And you said like, hey, you can't load up these companies. Like, you can't
front load profit
debt in these companies. But like that's what they do, right? They put the company, the acquired company buys or takes out the loan. Like that's part of that's the leverage buyout, right? From private equity. Like that's like just one Google search pulls that up. Like, what are you talking about?
So the way that you can front load profit in is if you have a company that is asset heavy or has a lot of cash reserves tied up somewhere that they're not using. Now you can then liquidate that, and that could become profit. But when you buy a company, like let's just say that I buy Lactoid. Let's say that Lactoid wants $2 million for his dildo company. To buy that company, I have to come up with 200 grand cash to qualify for an SBA loan, which is the best I'm going to get currently in the market. They will not loan the whole thing, right? I have to come up 200 grand, and I'm probably going to have to come up with more than that. Plus, I've also got to prove that I can operate the company. Now, let's say that Lactoid has been very, very dedicated and really good at running his dildo company. But all of the cash reserves in that company are his. That's his profit. Unless they're rolled up in something that is a company asset, like a fleet of trucks or some investment in another company. That's where I could come in and perhaps.
Yeah, they can leverage their assets.
I could then perhaps sell those assets off and come out with profit. But I can't.
Yeah,
there's no profit in the company loaded.
But hold on,
and the bank's going to consider those assets.
They do exactly this. They leverage the assets of the company, right? So, like in hospital acquisitions, what they've done is they sell out the hospital owns the land. They leverage that land. They maybe sell it to another company, or like they mortgage it off to a bank, right? There's different ways to construct
this happens, right? and that does happen with McDonald's and things like that.
Yes. You can structure a deal where the assets of the acquired company that you're just getting, right, are immediately leveraged into debt financing. That's what I'm talking about here, right? And so it's I'm saying that since the debt, right, lays on a company, and the private equity firm does provide a certain level of private investment, but it's a small percent, like 20 to 40%, depends on which deal this is, right? A small percentage of
20 to 40% is not a small amount. That's not small.
Whatever, dude, whatever. I'm saying it's not the majority. It's not the majority, right? Mostly it's a leveraged buyout. That's the point I said, right? So like 20%, like I said previously, hey, there could be a 5x a structure for the deal, like in terms of debt, right? So the private equity puts X amount, and then the banks put 5X amount. In any case, right, to get the profits out of it, right, on the private companies, or the PE firms, and right, they just have to make back their private stake, right, which is much smaller. So it it lowers.
They're still responsible for the debt that they've incurred.
Well, I'm about to say that's what I was going to ask. Are they going
to?
Is the private equity firm eventually, are you saying at the end of this they're just going to sell it off in the IPO, or just sell it off to someone else?
Well, not an IPO, because it's not an IPO. I mean, they're an established company. Well, I mean, I guess they couldn't make it public. I guess if it's a private
they could either go
company,
public or
that would actually probably be the only way out, because otherwise, a buyer looking at that company is not going to buy. People don't buy assets like this.
Private equity does it all the time. They literally do this all the time. And you don't know what you're talking about, my friend. You don't know what you're talking about. You've been wrong about every single part of this so far, like all of it.
No, I'm not wrong. I am not
all
wrong.
Of it already.
What you're talking about, first of all, is fraud. You can't try and sell something.
It's not fraud. You don't know what you're talking about. It's not fraud, right? Like getting a leverage deal is not fraud. A leverage buyout, like LBO, look it up. Leverage.
I understand leverage buyouts. That's because there's some asset there that makes it possible for someone to buy that company, right? Or somebody has bought enough of that company to have the leverage to buy the rest of it and force a stock sale. That is the leverage buyout. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but
you don't know what
I'm telling you that if you that nobody that buys businesses does business the way that you're talking about. You're like the boogeyman.
So it's all fraud. Okay, we got your answer. I agree. Don't know what the fuck.
Lactoid.
I'm gonna move on. I'm moving on to other people. Right?
I just want to. I'm just curious. I'm about to say, because obviously I'm not a right winger. I'm just curious on the framing of what's happening. So person buys company A what you call it, company, golly,
PE firm.
PE firm,
Private
PE
equity
firm,
buys
PE firms buy
a
company A.
dildo company.
Sure, and then they figure out that like, oh, okay, we can either cut quality or they find some asset and they sell it off for as much profit as they possibly can on the front end, or like I said, whether that means like they do a fire sale, whatever, they try to make their money back quickly. Now, did they purchase this company in full or did they buy it on debt? Like, did they take out a loan?
They bought it on debt, right?
Okay.
So,
If it's a leverage buyout, they buy it in part on debt.
Okay.
Obviously, as it's more complicated, which I think we're butting heads here. Grid and you are butting heads because Grid has a lot of technical knowledge, and I think maybe Prime, you're having difficulty explaining, particularly the bad incentives or the things that you are against because you trip up on a word or you say something that is like kind of incorrect. But I think maybe Grid, maybe you're missing a little forest through the trees.
No,
here,
no,
maybe.
I don't want to get
and so like I want to explain. Okay, fine.
I know. I'm just saying.
I
want you to answer because it's your, obviously, like I said, Prime's talking to you. I just want to get through to the end. So they've sold off, or they've figured out what cuts they can make to maximize their profit on the front end. Let's say let's say it is $1 million deal, and they've taken on $800,000 of debt. The PE firm has
like $100,000. If it's $1 million deal, like it's $100,000, $200,000. You're saying debt? Sorry, or
debt.
Okay, debt. Like $800,000 in debt.
They put up 200,000. They've got 800,000.
They put up 200,000. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So they've got $800,000 in debt. The PE firm owns that debt, correct? Because they're the ones that purchased.
No, the acquired company owns the debt.
The private company that they bought often owns it. It depends. In the shadier practices, right? Like, so it's not necessarily normative that you do this, right?
If you buy it,
some
you own the
equity
debt.
firms. Some equity firms will purchase the company and then make that company take on the debt.
Take on its own debt?
Yeah. To take on the debt. Yeah.
I didn't even know
they
that was
now
possible.
Control the company, right? Now they're saying the company to pay for their own.
This happened with Toys R Us.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So the company, so for the acquired company, so again, the Toys R Us, right? To pay for their own acquisition, they take out massive loans. And yeah, like that, those loans have to be paid off.
Okay. So the company owns its own debt. So they've extracted the immediate profits they want to. Are you saying that if the company goes under, the PE firm doesn't have to be concerned about any of that debt falling back on them, or does the PE firm have to figure out how to sell off the company to someone? Even
so, I want to throw that to Scott because he may have a better idea. So my understanding, and I could be wrong here, right? So my understanding is that if it's a leverage buyout in the way that I've been describing, like Scott said, there's multiple ways to structure this deal, right? It doesn't have to be the case.
Yeah, we're just describing the
acquired company does it. But yeah, I'm talking about a very specific example and a very pernicious example, I think, right? And like Scott said, it's a shady thing to do, but still, right? Like if you do structure it this way, right? I don't know what the repercussions are for the private equity company. I think that there are virtually none. For them, there's pretty much all upsides. So I'm curious what you think.
So first and foremost, I want to say that there's two very different types of deals. There's 100 different types of deals, but I'm going to put them in arbitrarily in two categories from a libertarian perspective. And there is private equity buying a company that wants to sell so that they have access to growth, right? Or because they're in a position where they need more capital in order to succeed, right? So I'm a small business and I'm a dildo company, as we use. I think it was a bad example because it made too many memes. But whatever, we'll go with it because we're there.
It's the best example.
So I'm a dildo company, right? And my dildos are made in America. And the best way for any company, really, the least risk thing that you can do for your company is find a way to reduce the cost of production, right? Changing prices can be risky because you don't know, no amount of market research will let you know truly whether or not you can raise prices or expand to new markets, things like that. But if you can cut production costs, right, you can then lower prices and get a higher rate of profit because you can produce more, or you can keep prices the same and just increase revenue and profit, right? But a lot of times, let's say I'm a small company and I know that the best way to do that is to move manufacturing out of the United States. But I don't have the capital and I don't necessarily have the ability to get a loan right now. But some other company wants to come in and says, you're doing great. This is good. We're going to purchase some percentage of your company. And that's going to give me access to bigger companies. It's going to give me access to lawyers and, and people that, socialists that work with the government that make business easier, because that's the best way to make money in America, is to be more socialist, not more capitalist, right? Or just the money to move a factory over to China, right? That's type A. Type B are companies either struggling or, mildly stable that don't want to sell, and private equity can get a combination of other private equity firms or banks or whatever to do a leverage buyout where they're purchasing part of this on debt, and then they can forcibly buy a company from people that don't want to sell their company. As a libertarian, this is anathema to free market capitalism. This is as anti-capitalistic as you can possibly be, because I don't want to sell it to a company that I know is going to gut it. And that's what happened with Toys R Us. And so I think sometimes we maybe confuse these two things, because one is good for the company and good for private equity. And let's be honest, that's most of how private equity is working, is that they're looking to find good companies that need capital, because now their capital investment is going to cause that business to grow, and then they can sell that company for a profit without any risk. Now, the other side of this, like the Toys R Us deal, is where they do things that I think should be absolutely illegal. I think it should be illegal to buy a company that doesn't want to sell in the first place. But another thing that I had to look it up, but the companies KKR, Bain Capital, and Vornado Realty Trust, they came together and bought Toys R Us. And what they started doing is they started selling Toys R Us's assets and then to the parent company, then transferring ownership of land to the parent company, and then leasing that land and putting them in contracts that were longer than the sale of the company, and then started charging the capital assets of Toys R Us management fees to do this process. And so what they did is they gutted a company that didn't want to be sold. That, let's be honest, Toys R Us was struggling because Amazon and things like that, right? That's how they were able to get gobbled.
Shopping revolution. Yeah.
Yeah, like, but what killed Toys R Us, what was the final nail in the coffin was private equity gutting their assets, forcing them into contracts of the assets that they gutted at leasing fees that were profitable towards the parent companies, and then filing, and then Toys R Us filed bankruptcy, and they and all of that, whilst they still had all these assets on their books, and whilst they had still pulled management fees from them. So as far as I'm considered, the real problem with private equity is not the incentive of how private equity works, or the concept of being able to bring in capital to a company. Like, yeah, some people engage in high time preference behavior, right? And they try and do things like cut costs and cut quality very quickly. But that's just bad business practices. And in a free market, those people fail because they're bad at doing private equity. But the people that do hostile takeovers on leveraged buyout and then do shit like that is kind of what Grid was saying. I think it's tantamount to fraud.
Okay, I'm okay with saying I don't know. Like, I'm okay with being the person up here that doesn't necessarily know everything's going on. So I'm learning right now. So tell me this: how are they taking over companies that don't want to sell?
So
are they buying their debt?
They didn't actually take over
public.
the company.
They're buying public companies. Okay.
Yeah, they're a public company. They buy up a bunch of their stock. They get voting rights on the board. Once they have voting rights,
I understand in public. I thought it was bigger than a private.
Yeah.
In the case of a private.
No, yeah. So, but
Private equity is private, but not necessarily the companies they purchase.
Not necessarily the company, but the thing I was talking about. So there are, private equity can buy a publicly traded company, right? Yeah. Like in the way that I described, right? But I was more talking about, and I was more thinking about private company, like a Lactoid. He didn't take his dildos public, right? Everything private, and when it comes to Lactoid's dildo, he guarantees that. So no worries. But like
ultimate discretion.
Ultimate discretion, right? Everything is private. So like I'm talking about like a like a medium-sized business, right? That's looking to sell. The owner wants to offload for any particular reason, right? So it's not a hostile takeover like you were discussing.
I made that distinction because it's important for a libertarian perspective, right? I understand that's not necessarily what you're arguing, right? But like for me, it's extremely important to state that if a private equity firm purchases Lactoid's business from him, and then he gets to sell his he sells his business for a profit, or at the very least makes some fat cash, and then the private equity firm runs it into the ground. I don't give a fuck because the private equity firm is the one almost certainly losing money. In this exchange, Lactoid made money. There's nothing evil or wrong about this from a moral perspective. But if it's a hostile takeover of a publicly traded company, I take issue with that. I don't think companies should be forced to sell stocks to people that they don't want to sell stocks to.
Okay, fair. But so let me explore that with you. Oh, and Lactoid. So I'll toss this to Lactoid, but like Scott, you can answer it later on. Talking about like, I guess I won't say moral, right? I won't talk about, I guess, morality, because I think that's going to take us to a weird place, right? I'm talking about like good for the economy and what we want our economy to look like. So, like, I think a healthy economy involves like workers doing productive activity, right? Like either creating goods or services or other things, right? Like they are doing something productive, and like within capitalism that funnels it up to the top, right? To our friend Lactoid, but still, like the workers share in the profits, right? And a well working business. And they go for a common goal, right? It's to the benefit of the workers, right, the laborers, and the benefit of the owners, right, for the business to run smoothly, to continue. But private equity breaks this chain, right? So like Lactoid in my example, right, like I said, he cared about his community, right? Like he cared about his customers. Like he had like a customer loyalty program, right? If you bought like 3 like jumbo sized dildos, right?
He would send them nudes to use the dildos with.
You get a 4th one free or something, right? You get like a discount like for these things. Like these were things he did to like build customer loyalty. But like to increase profits like in the short term, private equity gets rid of that, right? We get rid of that. We get rid of anything of the things that made laborers' lives easier, right? Maybe we cut break days or days off, right? We like slash that to as far as we can, right? Before these are benefits for our workers, and now we're taking that away, right? But all this happens because they don't give a fuck about dildos, right? Like they don't care about that. It's just an asset on their balance sheets, and they're just trying to increase the valuation as much as they can before they dump it. So
what does dump
the economy and good for the consumer?
Yeah, because I think that's what we keep talking about, the earlier parts of it, and maybe Lactoid can speak to what does dumping it mean? Because somebody, where does that?
There's no stock to dump. There's nothing to dump.
Like, hold on, it's fair. Listen. If private equity comes in, right, and they don't give a fuck about the art of dildo craft. Okay,
but they need the machines that make the dildos. This is actually what happens. Private equity will buy a company for a technology, a manufacturing process, an IP.
Where this debt is going,
and then they take that out and they'll dump the rest.
But regardless of that, right? I don't disagree with that. That's probably how they're operating because it's more valuable to gain those things. But let's just assume that any company comes in, like they have one of two things when they come in. They can either increase they can either improve the business or they can engage in high time preference behavior, which is what you're saying. If a capitalist is engaged in high time preference behavior, which is what you're describing when you're saying, let's quickly reduce quality and, reduce, cut wages, things like that give us an immediate benefit. A company that does that in a non-fraudulent free market and isn't engaged in hostile takeovers, right? So what that company does is lose money because in the long term, those things are negative to the consumer and negative to the economy. And then those companies collapse. Those companies lose money on those deals. However, if they come in and they say, what I want to do is I want this business to grow so that I can make more profit, which is all they care about is profit. If all they care about is profit, then the correct decision is to lower costs in a way that doesn't harm workers, make a means where the price equation for labor is accurate to the market, or maybe even better to get better workers and increase the quality of the product. So even if someone comes in and they have zero fucking incentive towards the art of dildo craft and all they give a fuck about is profit, well, the best way to make profit is to engage in behavior that meets the needs and desires of the consumer, which is good.
That's right.
But okay. So I'm going to toss this to Lactoid because I think there's a break within that logic that our friend Scott was talking about. But like, I want to hear what Lactoid says.
Maybe I can explain.
Sure.
Here's the problem that I think you're trying to describe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Have you got? I'm a boomer millennial, right? As I think a few people in here are. Do you recall in elementary school and middle school playing CoolMathGames.com? Do you remember this?
Mm-hmm. No.
Okay. On Cool Math Games,
I guess
you're not old enough.
On Cool Math Games, there is a game called Lemonade Stand, and in Lemonade Stand, you have 30 days to make as much money as possible, right? And you make lemonade. It's got to be, if shitty lemonade, you're not going to get customers. But there's a reputation scale, and you can boost your reputation by selling really good lemonade at a fair price. And so the hack is you max out all the stats. If you put in the most sugar, the most lemons, the most everything into one cup of lemonade, it's just the best lemonade ever. And everybody wants your lemonade, right? You get maximum reputation gains per lemonade. Except, so the game is you can make the most money by building the most reputation just by doing this. Except on the last day. Because the last day, you don't actually need your reputation. You can have, what you then do is, the customers already think your product is good, so they're coming anyway. You make the shittiest piss lemonade possible. You make it as cheap as possible per cup, and you balloon your profits on the last day because you only got 30 days to make profit, right? You balloon your profits on the last day. You kill the reputation of the business. Like if this, if it went on past, the next couple of days, there's some more customers coming to, drink your pea water. But on that day, they trust you, and they're coming to buy what they think is good lemonade, but it's shitty lemonade. Is that the problem you're trying to describe, Prime? That these equity firms come in, make things really shitty, try to extract as much money at the end as possible, destroy the reputation of the business, and then walk away?
Yeah, some of them do. Now, to be clear, I'm not trying to make a blanket statement on all private equity buyouts.
Trying not to be
I understand that some. Of the
you don't need to caveat it. I understand. Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that's like the worst case scenario of what you're trying to describe. I can accept this probably does happen in certain situations where there's firms that perhaps they see an opportunity for a quick exit and making a fuck ton of money. They don't really have as vested of a vision or interest in the company's long-term success, and they just want to take it. Yeah, like toy dildos, right? Like you said, like I meticulously craft my dildos. They're the perfect dildo. But then
dildo daddy.
Yeah, but then XYZ.
Each one.
I do not do. And then equity firm.
That is a front loading profit. That's not front loading profit, right?
But have they paid off the debt?
Yeah, and somebody's going to pay off the debt. I mean,
they can with the profits they use when killing your business, right? By either they're going to come in, they're going to rapidly cut down their workforce, they're going to reduce the quality of the services, rely on the reputation that the business has built up over time, sell off the company's assets,
right?
Try to like in that short period of time,
and I will grant
the profits as much as possible.
I've seen that happen,
and then take a larger share.
Yeah, I can grant you that I've seen that happen. Eagle Products, who make connecting rods and pistons and engine parts.
Can we change the banner?
Like they moved. They moved up.
Just because it's like
really
not
doesn't
good
like
for
the
the
banner.
I mean, look, I hate the banner, but if we're gonna have a banner, people hop into a channel with a stream title about a topic and a banner about it, and then we're talking about private equity. And then they like it.
All right, we'll do it this way. All right, go ahead. But yeah, so
I'd have to redo my UI to hide the banner.
No worries. Right.
It's easy to hide
I think this is a lot more descriptive. But yeah, so there are different types of buyouts, right? Yeah, and you can sell junk assets, right? You can there's all kinds of ways to get these things off your books. Sell the company in whole or in parts, right? You can like sell off all assets that aren't already leveraged. You can do so many things.
We all saw Margin Call, right?
I haven't
movie.
seen that one.
I mean, we can just. I mean, we can just think about
okay.
McDonald's. McDonald's has made such a name with a brand. Like it sounds good in like capitalist idealism to speak to what you call it was saying about like, oh, the best thing for a business to do is to increase the quality of their product. But speaking to what Lacto was talking about with
I didn't say that.
which I do acknowledge is if you have the brand for it, you can slowly dip quality, and people kind of they notice but don't notice, but they're just gonna keep going. And you,
Yeah,
But
but
it's even
that's
figure out
high
their
time
belief.
preference behavior, right? So we
It's
can
not
see
even
this
high
with,
time.
for
You do that
example,
long-term
well, no,
time.
right, but no, that's not what high time preference behavior means. It means high time preference behavior means that you're engaged in making decisions in the immediacy as opposed to thinking about the long term consequences of your
Even
decisions.
in the long term, there's no consequence to those decisions. Is what I'm saying.
No, but like
If
we
you have the
can
right
see this.
brand.
We can see this with companies all the time, right? So a great example. If you, I know we're streamers. So there's probably a lot of gamers here, especially in the audience, right? Especially in Twitch, right? Alienware PC. When Alienware was making gaming computers, they were the best like OEMs you could get, right? Nobody made better pre-built gaming PCs than Alienware. And then what ended up happening was they kept trying to cut costs. So they started making closed designs where you couldn't really see in it. They got bought out by Dell, and then Dell made them put in like power supplies that weren't like cheap Chinese shit power supplies that weren't like modular. They stopped making the aesthetics of the inside of the PC look good. They use cheap ass RAM. And now what you have is you have a company that still exists. You can still go buy an Alienware. But nobody, there not that many people buy them because iBuyPower, CyberPower, small businesses, all these other places exist where you can get a better quality product for a better price. And you can't get AMD from them because they have all these like backroom fucking deals with Intel and Nvidia, and they're shit computers. And the business has suffered.
Sure,
Like,
but you're
they're
talking
still
about like
lagging
things that don't have
around.
the same brand power as a McDonald's. Again, do you think
No,
McDonald's?
okay, sure.
do
McDonald's
something-
had bigger brand power, but in the gaming
Well,
gaming PC market, Alienware was the king.
Sure,
There
but
was
gaming
nobody better
That's a new
than
market
buying-
though, in the scheme of like history. Like I don't think that you can
These
say
aren't
that, like,
arguments against what I'm saying. This is
but
silly nonsense.
I'm saying that the brand just wasn't strong enough. Like you're saying that like like gaming PCs.
The
is like
brand was
a
as
10-year brand.
strongest
Yeah,
brand
I think
there
I'm-
was for
Scott's right
gaming
on that.
PCs.
Sure, but you're talking about a new industry. There is no like long time the gaming PC industry has probably existed in reality like a decade. Like
No,
No.
yes, you don't have
Alienware's
50
been
years
around a couple
of-
decades.
of like actual big gaming. That's not like we were talking about. New
Alienware was
This-
back in like.
I don't care about
Why-
that. I'm
why
saying
are you
that- I'm saying they
goalpost
don't-
shifting
they
to
have-
new market?
I'm going.
You're rambling to not deal with the point that I made.
I'm dealing
10
with
years
I'm
ago
saying that- I'm
was
saying
like
that-
a year before Trump was elected.
Yeah, I'm talking.
I
when
mean,
I'm saying
Alienware's
that-
been around a while, bro.
Okay, when I talk about McDonald's, as far as McDonald's has been around, I'm saying that they
The last 5 years.
They have had to continue to dip in quality of their product, and
Alienware has been
and
around
they
since
haven't suffered any
1996.
consequences for it.
Okay,
1996.
so
I'm older than that. Than the company that exists.
It
That's how
doesn't
long is it-
fucking
that's how
matter,
long.
you dipshit. You're going on about nonsense.
No,
what I'm
I'm
saying
saying
is
that you're
looking
saying that-
at no, shut up. I'm
No,
talking
you
about
think this is
looking at
stupid. I'm telling you why
high
it's stupid.
time preference behavior and how companies that
And it doesn't-
engage in
isn't
that
necessarily
behavior
true.
fuck over their brand.
And I'm saying that I gave an example of why that's not true. Deal
No,
with
you
it.
just re-brought up
I'm
McDonald's.
pointing- yes,
and then you said this is
McDonald's-
too new. The gaming industry, you can't look at the
Right.
market
If I
at all in
have a
games
company that
or
existed
computers.
a week and I like had great product the first day and bad product the second day, my brand didn't stick around.
We're
long
talking
enough
about
to-
Well, hold on. I mean, if
29
you're going to talk
years
about
old,
fucking
what the fuck are you
McDonald's, at least
talking
be
about?
honest about talking about fucking McDonald's. McDonald's had shit quality 25 years ago. They've actually improved the quality of their product
Not.
somewhat,
They even
and
came
now there's more pressure for them to improve it more.
No, it's
I don't
not.
understand the fucking points you guys are trying to make. Let's just
Where's
move on
the
to the main
pressure for them to
topic.
improve their
This is
quality of their
dumb.
products? They
I mean,
continue to dip
this
their
is the
quality.
dumbest conversation I've had yet.
You have like first of all, Grid. You keep making shit up. You keep making shit
I'm
up.
not making
You know,
shit up.
Yeah. You every time we bring up a business, right? You're like, oh, turns out Grid's a part of that business, right? He knows a lot about it,
Not a
right?
part of that
I think
business.
you're bullshitting us. I think you're bullshitting us a lot of the
Okay.
time. But in any case, right? I want to get back to this. I'm not
You seem
trying
to not understand how
I'm not
any of this
trying
shit
to-
works.
Yeah, sure. Hold on. You didn't know that you could leverage a company the way I described, right? And I checked.
I did know that. I did know that. But I told you that what you were talking about was fucking wrong. Also, it's fucking fraud. It's called fraud. When you lie to a bank, that's called fraud. Trying to sell a shitty company that you've gutted is fraud. That's fraud. You go to jail for that shit.
You want to prove you're an expert here, but you're clearly not. You're not an
expert. All right. You're the one that can't even fucking explain it, Prime. You had to have Scott explain it. Scott had to explain it, and he said, and he actually did it right, and he didn't say shit that you said.
You keep fucking butthurt because someone's calling you out.
I think my cool math games example worked pretty good.
Your math games example is good.
Yeah.
We had to bring it down to a kindergarten level.
Right?
For the conversation to make sense.
But what I wanted to talk about, so back to it, right? And so
in the real world, businesses last more than 30 days. That's why that trick doesn't work.
Right.
Because day 31, you fucked up.
Not really.
You destroyed.
I mean, I don't know how long did Lehman Brothers last after the 08 crisis or the 07 crisis?
Not very long. But even then, right? Like if you have
socialism, that's not the market.
Get out of the company. Sorry. Guys, if you're trying to get out of the deal, right? Like in a short amount of time, right? You're not. That's what I'm saying. Like for some of these deals, you're not planning to be here for 20 years, right? And like maintain this brand, right? You're planning to get out of here in maybe 5 years or like whatever, right? 2 years, whatever however the deal is structured. So like the point is to like boost profits as much as you can, right? Or sell as much assets as you can, right?
This can happen.
Make your money back. So
this
like
happen,
yeah. And so and this this has been has shown itself in all kinds of, and I think, pernicious ways, right?
You're right. I am tired. I did get some sleep on the plane, but I almost missed my plane. Fucking Brian.
For instance,
me there, we didn't keep me there. We chatted until I literally arrived at the airport at 4 o'clock.
Buying up like small dentist practices everywhere.
I boarded my flight at 5:10. I checked the bag, went through, returned the rental car, checked the bag, went through security, and then went to and boarded my plane within an hour, 1 hour.
Like in an area. And so, like, yes,
and I did get sleep on the plane, and I am really tired. And I just don't have any. I don't have any room for bullshit today.
Or either one private equity or a few, right? And so, like, choices are actually decreased, right? You don't have choices in the market. They're all being told, hey, to improve your business, right? These are the things you have to do. And that often involves like a degradation in care. And so, like, do you think this is positive for the economy? Again, I'm not talking about morals because I know your moral your moral compass is different from mine, right? I'm talking about, do you think it's a positive addition to the
incentives for our market?
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, right? I mean, I think we would all be pretty naive to say that you can't make money fucking people over in America. You can make money fucking people over in America or any country. Of course you can. And so in situations where, they are, again, trying to crash the product in a way that just generates the most amount of short-term gains, that depending on what they spend that money on, that could be negative for the overall economy. That could be, yeah, sure, that could be bad. But it also, in many ways, it could be good, right? Like private equity, believe it or not, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, I think private equity actually just saved Red Lobster. Like they are out of that process now, and they're doing better than they were before.
I remember Red Lobster.
They put an Indian in charge, and that dude knows black people. He's like, we got boil bags. All right, come back, and they're cooking.
Well, and then the other thing here is so there's a story again. I got this from a documentary interview from Warren Buffett, where he was approached by Lehman Brothers, and he was asked to bail them out before the government. And Lehman didn't get bailed out from the government, I'm pretty sure. I think they actually did go under. A couple other big banks like AIG did get bailed out by the government, but Lehman was particularly in dire straits. And they went to Warren Buffett and they said, "Hey, can you bail us out?" And Warren was kind of open to the idea, and then he took a look at their balance sheet and just saw how horribly they're getting railed by these subprime loans that they had given out. And he said, we just can't do it. Like, it's not responsible for me to give money to you and help you out in the situation. And there are guardrails, right? Like, yeah, perhaps Warren Buffett maybe could have been like ultra predatory or like try to just do something along those lines, but I don't know if he would have even been able to. I think that a lot of businesses that are looking for private equity are businesses that are on the verge of dying, right? And so yes, you're just like the ICU probably has a pretty high mortality rate, but that doesn't mean that ICU doctors are worse than general practice doctors. It just means that the kind of people that go to an ICU are almost going to die. Just like the kind of people that go to private equity firms, the kind of companies that go to private equity firms are disproportionately in distress. They're heavily indebted. They're suffering from low, either low profit margins or their liquidity crunch, and they, otherwise they would die. And I think private equity oftentimes gives them a solution out when otherwise there wouldn't be one.
So I looked at Red Lobster. I'm sorry, just to ground this. I looked at Red Lobster, and it looks like Red Lobster ended up private equity caused their harm, and I guess also made.
Oh yeah, it was a really bad deal for them
because it's showing. It looks like in 2014 they were acquired by Golden Gate Capital.
Mm-hmm.
But what in 2014 what they did was they sold all of the real estate underneath the restaurants.
To make the deal work.
Toys R Us.
So
I'm not talking about 2014. I'm talking about the second round.
Yeah, in 2024. Yeah, I was just grounded, taking it all the way through.
Yeah.
So they sold.
So
all
we
the
got
real
both
estate,
examples with one company.
Both examples with one company.
Yeah, which ended up increasing. Like basically, it caused them to file for bankruptcy because all the restaurants now had to pay rent for the property that they used to own, which led to them filing for bankruptcy. But they filed Chapter 11 in 2024, but then they were acquired in September 2024 by a second private equity firm, and I guess so far that's been positive. But I don't know I don't know if this second company also plans to, send them out to pasture, or if they're just doing a temporary boost or what.
I mean, these things get passed on to different hands, right? And so
payday loans exist.
Yes, there are some distressed companies that go to private equity, right? There's also promises private equity does, we can assist you, right? Because they position themselves, and there's a thing that PE firms absolutely do. They position themselves as subject matter experts, right? We've seen this before here. They position themselves as subject matter experts on the sector, right? And they have different brands, right? When they're approaching business of this, right? We're a dentistry group, right? And we know how to empower dentists to do the things that they love best, right? So you don't have to worry about the back end in terms of the office or anything like that, right? Logistics. We're going to be handling all of that, right? You just take a few suggestions on our end, and then sit back and talk, right? You want to take you out of the day-to-day grind of running a business, right? And do the thing that you love most, right? Plumbing, dentistry, or whatever, right? So they do that, but they're not actually subject matter experts, right? These people, again, they don't necessarily care. These are econ grads, right? These are hedge fund managers. These are, or at least, or at the very least, they report to them, right? Even if the front company itself may have people who know a bit more, right? They report to these individuals. Let's see. And so that dictates the decisions that come down, and we see testimony from the people who've sold their businesses, right? I was under the impression, right, that they cared about what I was doing, and things would get better, but things are only degraded, right? We had to fire a few workers, and because we're so low on staff, right, we can't safely service as many people as we do, or as we used to, right? Or maybe we're forced to take a lot more appointments and degrade quality for each one, right? These are the things that happen. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, there's a wonderful interview of Steve Jobs that I think describes exactly the behavior that you're talking about, but I don't know if it's a fundamental difference in the way that libertarians view economics through Austrian.
Hey everybody, welcome back.
But he speaks about ICBM, right, and about
echo
how
chamber
ICBM
bullshit right now that
could have been
irrelevant.
Windows, could have been Apple.
They don't want
they
to
had all of the technology.
engage with
They had a
reality.
head start.
So.
They had the
You mean
brand
IBM?
recognition. Sorry, IBM. I don't know why.
I was very confused. I'm sorry, Fred.
Intercontinental ballistic missiles is a good way to fucking have power in the tech industry too.
The North Korean company. I know that.
It was like the military invested in making computers. So I'm like,
it was IBM and another one. And what he describes is a process of when businesses forget that so what he talked about is when you have a monopoly, right? Which is essentially what IBM had. Because they had a monopoly in the market, as the way the left uses it, right? A majority market share. That you don't improve the product because you don't have competition to improve the product, right? When you lack the competition, when someone isn't coming out with a better printer, right? Then you don't make money by spending a bunch of money in research and development to make the printers even better. Right? Because people buy a printer and they're fine with it and there isn't a better printer. And so the way that you make money is that you start hiring econ bros to cut costs. You start hiring marketing people is what he's talking about, right? You start the way that you make money is that you make money through marketing or through cutting costs, making the same products. And what ends up happening
service out of it, right?
Obviously that's not what he's talking about because that wasn't common practice back then, but yeah. HP is horrific. We get it. They're retarded and they're engaged in high time preference behavior. You buy an HP printer and then you don't sign up for their subscription service. So they cut off your scanner's ability to scan. Don't buy an HP printer, guys. There are better ones. IBM and Xerox. That was what the interview was about. Thank you, Chad. And so he's talking about these people and he said that they called them toner heads, right? Like these people that just have no concept of the product itself and no care about the product itself or actually the business itself because they're obsessed with that. And he describes this as the very mechanism that allowed Apple to exist. If it was not for the stupid decisions of big companies that are engaged in marketing and not engaged in the product themselves, Apple would never have been able to be a company that was successful. And so it's the same thing when we talk about AC companies in the South or plumbing companies in the North or dentistry, where equity firms come in and they try and gobble up all of the company to create all of the companies in the area to create a monopoly, and the people that are purchasing or looking in the yellow books or looking online or wherever don't know that the 4 companies that service their area are all owned by the same equity firm, so they get the same consulting prices, they get all the same shit. Is that what you're describing is high time preference behavior again? You're describing attempting to make money not by making a superior product, but instead by trying to control the market. And this, in the short term, can lead towards gains. But in the long term, this has always been unsuccessful for every company. It was unsuccessful with Standard Oil
against that.
And so what I would argue, right, is that you may say, well, the incentives of the ability to do this are bad. And what I would say is that actually what we have is we have the real problem with this, and this is going to get real into libertarian land, is we have something called the Austrian business cycle created by fiat currency, created by the fact that we don't have real commodity currency, and created by the fact that we have fractional reserve banking where banks loan out more money than is actually in existence and increase the money supply and increase inflation. And so what we have is we have a boom and bust economy. And during a boom, high time preference behavior and fraud goes up until the economy can no longer sustain it. And then we get an economic collapse like we had in 2009 or like we had in 2020. And that washes out these stupid ideas. But you're correct. Certain equity firms take advantage of our socialist market and our socialist system of currency to use that as opposed to capitalism. And so the actual answer to this problem is not private equity is a problem. The actual answer to this problem is increase private property rights and to get us off of a dollar that is by design designed to inflate and increase the money supply and make the market have a volatile boom and bust economy where fraud and bad business decisions can flourish in high time preference thinking, and instead get us to a stable economy where low time preference behavior and investment is what the economy tends to focus on.
Sure, that may be an answer. I'm not pushing back into. My point was to get your perspective on this, right? Not my perspective. So that's why I'm not arguing with you guys on this, right? on the point you were making previously, and I'll move on from this in a second, right? I do want to move on to our main topic. But this is just something that's been on my mind like a lot. So like you reminded me, and I think it was Xerox, but it might have been IBM. But I think the company that was being discussed was Xerox, right? I saw like, I guess it was a documentary as well about this, talking about like how at some point in time, like the people in charge, the people with the decision-making power, stopped being the engineers, right? Who knew the product.
Yeah,
and
that's
who were,
what
like,
he was talking about in that interview.
It might have been the same thing. Yeah. So like
I think it's part of a larger documentary. You probably watched the documentary, and I'm just talking about the conversation with Steve Jobs in that documentary. I think we probably saw the same thing.
Maybe, yeah. So like the engineers who like Xerox was like an innovation machine, right? Like so many things that we have now, technologies rely on, came out of Xerox. Same thing, which was IBM as well, right? But at some point in time, like it wasn't the engineers who were making the final decisions. It was like the
marketing
marketers
people.
and the marketing
and the penny pinchers, like the how do we cut costs? How do we cut costs? How do we cut costs?
Ideas. Yeah. And you could see a massive turn in quality, right? Where Xerox, like Xerox was like Google in terms of like it was a verb. Hey, I'm going to Xerox this paper to you, right? Like it was an action because it was so prevalent, right? But that changed eventually because of those bad decisions. So I hear you. All right, I guess to wrap this up, yeah, I didn't want this to be a discussion on morality, and if I made it sound like that, it's not exactly where I was going, right? Or even like talking about like necessarily banning private equity, right? But more or less rethinking its massive impact on our economy. It's been massive, right? And so, like I was saying before, private equity, it says to its capital investors.
You might want to kick Corey. His PC crashed. Okay. I'll be right back.
Sure. Thank you so much. Private equity. Let me see if I can. Kick from studio. Okay. Private equity says that it is a subject matter expert, right, to these companies. When oftentimes it simply is not, right, and it's not really its goal to be. And a decision it makes can be disastrous. We've seen this, for instance, in healthcare, right? We have. And you can go online. You don't believe me? You can go online and you can find testimonies from nurses, workers, right, saying, "Well, once private equity bought us, what they did was they cut quality. They cut the staff, right? There was a certain number of nursing staff that you must have on the force, right? To say they deliver services, you must have a certain number, depending on the population and
the amount of hospital beds you have, yeah."
And the service, right? Like if you're on the NICU or like on the surgical floor, right? Depends.
Yeah.
But you have to have a certain number. They'll go below that number. And it makes it very dangerous because you cannot respond fast enough, right? Or you can't go through rotations fast enough. It's a whole thing. So
high time preference behavior, and they gut
agreed,
companies.
Yeah.
I mean, healthcare is more complicated, so I wouldn't use it as an example because you have to talk about like pharmacy care managers, and like it gets really fucking, and it's the most regulated, most socialist industry that we have in America, and so it's just like it's layers of red tape and bureaucracy.
Yeah, but I'm trying to be narrow in my criticism here, right? Like specifically like talking about like cutting staff, right? You can't cut staff here in the same way you can cut in other places where you could cut in to a still dough factory. You can't cut them in a healthcare setting, right? We see this in the real estate market where
you can't grow either. It's illegal to grow your hospital in a lot of places.
Yeah. And you see this in the real estate sector where like in there'll be like neighborhoods, right? Multiple neighborhoods where you're like, okay, I'm looking for an apartment here, and you're looking at different renters, right? Going to different websites, but it's all the same owner. They have different names, right, for these renters, but all of it's the same PE firm, and they're treating their tenants badly. They're basically slumlords, right? They're doing the things that slumlords do for a lot of these places, right? Like the testimony is out there. You don't have to listen to me, right? It's fine. And so like the thing I want to discuss is like, do we like in the steel man of capitalism, right? Capitalism works to improve everyone's lives, because like following profit tends to mean like what's good for everyone involved, right? That like, hey, like we're going to sell you a good, right? And to get you to come back, we want to sell you a quality good, right? And then to get to our laborers to make a quality good, we want to set prices at a reasonable rate, right? Like for labor, for their salaries at a reasonable rate, but competitive, right? To get the best workers, right? That's like the steel man of capitalism. But I think this breaks that logic. When you can just be in there for a short term, we can buy something with someone else's money, right? A bank's money and not your money. Then that means that like, and you can make your money back very quickly. That means that you're not concerned with like the long-term health.
I mean, yeah. I will.
I know it seems
give you
like
a slight olive branch and just say that when we are talking about companies like we're talking about Red Lobster and we're talking about Toys R Us, right? I would say that if you are if once you have control of that company, you are engaged in practices that you're knowing is putting a giant financial burden on them with the intention of offloading that burden at some other time, and you're taking their real estate and then leasing them and doing management fees. I think that this constitutes fraud. And I think it constitutes fraud and isn't capitalism, because in the beginning, when you sold yourself, you did not sell yourself to this company, assuming that they chose to purchase, right? If it's a hostile takeover, I have a whole other
a different thing,
situation with them, right? But if you think like if I'm a plumber in the north where pipes freeze and some private equity says we're going to give you access to this, we're going to do all this, we're going to do that, and then they engage in all of this other behavior that they didn't tell you about and is part and parcel of how they conduct business, and you had no means of being able to discover that beforehand, I think you're getting into the domain of fraud. And that maybe the law hasn't caught up to this, but that we're no longer talking about capital being used as a machine to increase production. And we're now talking about a company engaging in fraud with the intention of gutting businesses. And I think this is probably a minority, almost certainly a minority of what occurs in private equity. But in those cases, like I would just say that that's fraud.
Yeah,
So
I think
sure.
looking at Red Lobster again, like, because reading about this is really like, because like
It's super interesting.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting. So it said that Red Lobster once they sold off, like once they sold to the private equity firm, I said earlier, the private equity firm sold off the land and, like I said, leased it back to them for the rents. But they were, because you can't move the restaurant, the rents were above market rate. The private equity firm also seemed to be, they were owners of a shrimp company, and they sold massive amounts of shrimp.
The new owners are
all you can eat shrimp special, yeah.
Yeah, they sold off the shrimp with all these marketing deals, also above market rate.
I had 100 shrimp there one time,
and I was saying they could afford it.
Disgusting.
Apparently, but they apparently the goal is just like,
jumbo.
okay, they'll just keep, because they just keep on getting deals from distributors. They keep on taking more and more debt, and eventually the distributors are gonna be like, hey, you need to pay this, and they'll be like, oh, we can't.
Corey, we can mute yourself.
And
Sorry.
they
I'm
they can't pay
with
it, but then they're just gonna end up saying like, what do we do? And it's like, well, you can have this company. And they just told you to
It's like, I'm okay with a business doing all of the things that you described that sound evil. Where the potential fraud, I think, really comes in is when you can sell that company, and then that company is beholden to contracts that you yourself force them to sign by being in control of the company at a previous date. It's like you wrote a contract to yourself, and then you split off part of yourself into a new entity, and now that new part of yourself that doesn't exist there anymore is beholden to a contract. And so it seems to fundamentally go against the principle of what a contract is.
So private equity is doing transfers, right? Like something that private equity is doing is some firms they're selling the asset to themselves. They have like literally what you're saying,
which is
more little sense.
Which should
they're like they have a separate arm, right? And they
Yeah,
sell
no.
it,
I just you're repeating what I
yeah,
said.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Well, yeah,
I'm,
I know.
there's a
I'm
problem
trying
with
to
that.
make
Yeah. So Scott, the interesting thing about Red Lobster is that when they made that happen, they were profitable enough to do it.
I just want to
They
finish my
didn't
thought.
adjust it.
I just want to
Correct.
finish my thought. I'm going to finish my thought. Thank you. Great. So, there's that. But again, in terms of these capital improvements, these things aren't happening. So Bain Capital released a report saying that like only 6% of its growth came from capital improvements, revenue growth from the companies it was buying, right, within its private equity arm. We see that for these companies,
I mean, 6% is outpacing inflation, and then.
But the rest was because of their other practices, right? Like,
okay.
Yeah,
6% of their growth. My bad.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying they were only getting 6% growth, and I'm like, that's not terrible. It's not great.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not bad.
They're engaging in a lot of shady practices, and I think it changes the incentives. I'm going to send you guys a video. And this guy is not a leftist. Don't worry. Okay. He's not a leftist. I guarantee you. He's a capitalist there. And he's talking about private, the state of
press X the doubt chat.
Oh my God. Okay. Whatever.
I'm going to get 2 minutes in the video and be like, look at this fucking socialist.
Okay, whatever. Okay.
It's a video from Lactoid.
I'm joking around so we can move on to,
yeah, sure. So the point I'm making is that like he does like a great a roundup of like the current state of private equity and how like there was previously growth in the sector, but that's disappeared, right? And there's all kinds of interesting accounting practices are being used. All these things are happening, and the latest development is that Trump just allowed private equity access to our 401ks. So before this was separated into like the
cryptocurrency is also allowed in
market and cryptocurrencies. Indeed, thank you. Into the private market, right? Like in terms of buying private businesses. But now, like there's a possibility that 401ks will start investing in these things, and it's possible that we're looking at a big balloon, right? That there's a balloon in the marketplace, and we're not actually addressing it, and then it's going to pop. And it'll be disastrous consequences. And
you
we're
should
not
read Austrian Business Cycle by Robert Quick. All right, so, yeah, because yes, that's the problem of fiat currency you're describing.
Okay. Well, fair enough. I'll leave it there. But if anyone wants to have a final word on it, go ahead.
It's only like 3 hours on audiobook.